Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something I've learned from talking to men for decades. Men don't struggle with love the way women think they do. We struggle with responsibility. So when a man truly loves you, what comes out of his mouth tells the whole story, not the fancy lines, not the smooth talk, but the words that carry weight, because a man only puts weight on what he values. Love is revealed more by consistency than by sweet words, and this is where most people get confused. Anybody can say the right thing at the right time. Anybody can send a good morning text, drop a compliment, or whisper something romantic when the mood is right. But words without consistency are just noise. A man who truly loves you doesn't just speak when it's convenient. He shows up when it matters. He shows up when he's tired, when he's stressed, when life is heavy, and when there's nothing in it for him. Consistency is effort repeated over time, and effort is something men do only for what they truly value. Men are very simple in this way. We protect what we care about, we invest in what we believe in, and we maintain what we don't want to lose. If a man's words change depending on his mood, his availability, or what he wants from you in that moment, that's not love. Love doesn't come and go. Love doesn't disappear for days and reappear with excuses. Love doesn't make you feel secure one week and uncertain the next. Consistency creates safety, and love always wants you to feel safe. When a man loves you, you don't have to chase clarity. His actions explain his intentions without you having to ask. He calls when he says he will. He follows through on promises, even small ones. He checks on you not because he has to, but because you're on his mind. That repetition is not accidental. It's a reflection of emotional investment. Men do not consistently invest energy into something they are unsure about. Sweet words feel good, but they don't build trust. Trust is built when behavior lines up over time. If he says he cares, but disappears when you need support, the inconsistency tells you the truth. If he says he misses you, but makes no effort to see you, the gap between words and action is the answer. Love doesn't live in speeches. Love lives in patterns. Consistency also shows emotional maturity. A man in love understands that showing up is part of his role. He understands that reassurance isn't weakness, it's responsibility. He doesn't leave you guessing where you stand because he knows confusion creates distance. Love wants closeness, not anxiety. So he makes his presence felt in your life in ways that don't fade with time. And here's the real truth. Consistency requires intention. It requires discipline. It requires choosing you even when distractions exist. That's why consistency is more powerful than passion. Passion can fade, excitement can cool, but consistency means he has decided you matter enough to stay steady. When a man consistently shows up with respect, effort, and care, that's not coincidence. That's love proving itself. Every single day, a man in love speaks with responsibility, not confusion. And this is one of the clearest signs that his feelings are real. Confusion is not romantic. Mixed signals are not deep. Uncertainty is not a mystery to be solved. Confusion usually means one thing: a man has not decided. And when a man hasn't decided, his words will always keep you guessing. He'll say just enough to keep you interested, but never enough to make himself accountable. Love doesn't operate like that. Love is direct, intentional, and grounded. When a man loves you, his words create clarity, not anxiety. You don't have to replay conversations in your head or decode what he meant. You don't need to ask your friends what his message really meant. A man who loves you understands that his words carry weight, and because of that, he chooses them carefully. Responsibility shows up in how he speaks about you, how he speaks to you, and how he speaks about the future. Men are very aware of the power of their words, especially when it comes to commitment. That's why a man who is unsure will avoid clear language. He'll say things like, let's see, go with the flow, or no pressure. Those phrases sound relaxed, but they remove responsibility. A man in love doesn't need escape routes. He doesn't need to keep things vague. He knows where he stands, and he wants you to know too. Responsible speech also means he doesn't promise what he can't deliver. Love doesn't exaggerate to impress. It doesn't make big claims in emotional moments and then disappear when real life shows up. A man who loves you is honest about his capacity. If he says he'll do something, it's because he intends to follow through. His words are stable because his emotions are grounded. Another sign of responsibility is how he handles difficult conversations. A man in love doesn't shut down or avoid topics that matter to you. He may not always have perfect answers, but he shows up to the conversation. He listens. He explains. He reassures. Silence and avoidance create confusion, and love doesn't hide behind silence. Love communicates. You'll also notice that his words align with his behavior. He doesn't say one thing and do another. When a man speaks responsibly, his actions back him up naturally. There's no performance, no inconsistency, no emotional whiplash. What you hear and what you experience match. Responsibility in speech is a form of respect. It says, I care about how my words affect you. It says, I'm not here to waste your time or play with your emotions. When a man loves you, he understands that clarity is kindness. And kindness is always part of real love. Real love sounds like commitment, not convenience. And this is where many people mistake attention for devotion. Convenience is easy. It shows up when it fits his schedule, his mood, or his needs. Commitment, on the other hand, requires adjustment. It requires sacrifice. It requires choosing you even when it costs him time, comfort, or effort. A man who truly loves you doesn't fit you into his life. Only when it's easy, he rearranges his life to make room for you. When a man speaks from convenience, his words are flexible and temporary. He says things like, whenever, we'll see, or I'll try. These phrases keep options open and responsibility low. They sound harmless, but they reveal a lack of decision. Love doesn't need constant escape clauses. Love sounds firm because commitment is a decision already made. When a man loves you, his language reflects that certainty. Commitment also shows up in how he prioritizes you. He doesn't make you compete with distractions, habits, or other people for basic attention. That doesn't mean you are the only thing in his life, but it does mean you are an important part of it. If he loves you, he wants you to feel included, not optional. His words don't make you feel like you're asking for too much just by wanting consistency and effort. A committed man also talks about responsibility in practical ways. He doesn't just express feelings, he expresses plans. He talks about time, effort, and growth. Love moves forward. It doesn't stay stuck in emotional conversations with no direction. When a man loves you, he's not afraid of progress because progress means building something real, and real things matter to him. Convenience avoids discomfort, but commitment faces it. When issues arise, a man in love doesn't disappear or emotionally detach. He may struggle, but he stays present. His words don't minimize your feelings or make you feel unreasonable for wanting more. Instead, he acknowledges the problem and works through it with you. That's love taking responsibility, not love running from effort. You can also hear commitment in how he talks about the long term. He doesn't avoid future conversations or act irritated when you bring them up. Even if the details aren't fully clear, his willingness to discuss the future shows intention. Love isn't afraid of tomorrow. Convenience lives in the moment. Commitment thinks ahead. At its core, commitment means he has chosen you on purpose. Not because it was easy, not because it was available, but because it mattered. When a man's words reflect that level of intention, you don't feel unsure. You feel grounded, and that grounded feeling is the sound of real love. His words match his actions when love is genuine, and this alignment is one of the strongest indicators that his feelings are real. Anyone can talk. Talking is easy. Words cost nothing if they are not backed by behavior, but action requires effort, consistency, and follow through, and men do not invest that kind of energy unless their heart is involved. When a man truly loves you, there is no contradiction between what he says and what he does. The message is the same in both places. When words and actions don't match, confusion enters the relationship. He may say he cares, but he doesn't show up. He may say you matter, but he makes no time. He may say you're important, yet you feel like an afterthought. That gap is not accidental. It's information. Love doesn't create emotional whiplash. Love creates trust, and trust is built when behavior reinforces speech over time. A man in love understands that his credibility matters. He knows that every promise, even the small ones, is a test of trust. So when he says he will call, he calls. When he says he'll be there, he shows up. When he says you can count on him, he proves it in moments that actually require effort. His actions speak in the same tone as his words, steady, clear, and reliable. This alignment also shows emotional maturity. Love grows when a man takes ownership of his role. He doesn't make excuses or blame circumstances for his lack of effort. If something matters to him, he finds a way. That's not perfection, that's intention. A man in love may not always get everything right, but his effort is visible and his actions consistently move in the direction of his words. Another important detail is how he acts when no one is watching. Genuine love doesn't perform for an audience. It doesn't change depending on who's around. The way he treats you in private matches how he speaks about you in public. Respect is consistent. Care is consistent. Love doesn't switch on and off based on convenience. When actions match words, you don't feel the need to demand reassurance. You feel it. You don't have to beg for effort because effort is already there. You don't have to question his intentions because his behavior answers the question before you even ask it. Love becomes calm, not chaotic. This kind of alignment creates emotional safety. You trust what he says because you've seen it lived out repeatedly. Over time, that consistency builds confidence in the relationship, not because of grand gestures, but because of reliable patterns. When a man's words and actions walk together, love doesn't just sound good, it feels secure. Love includes protection, respect, and intention, and these qualities reveal themselves clearly in the way a man speaks and behaves. When a man truly loves you, he doesn't just think about how you make him feel. He thinks about how you feel, how you are treated, and how safe you are emotionally and mentally. Protection in love is not about control or dominance. It is about awareness, responsibility, and care. A man in love is mindful of the impact his words and actions have on your heart. Protection begins with emotional consideration. He doesn't say things that intentionally wound you, embarrass you, or make you feel small. Even during disagreements, his words don't cross into disrespect. Love doesn't aim to hurt, just to win an argument. A man who loves you wants to resolve issues, not damage you in the process. That restraint is a form of protection, and it only comes when your feelings truly matter to him. Respect is closely tied to how he speaks about you, especially when you are not present. A man in love does not joke at your expense, expose your vulnerabilities, or allow others to speak poorly about you. He values your dignity. Respect means he sees you as someone worth honoring, not someone to be managed or tolerated. Love without respect becomes selfish, but love with respect becomes stable. Intention is what separates serious love from casual attachment. When a man loves you, his presence in your life is deliberate. He is not drifting. He is not unsure why he is there. His words reflect purpose. He doesn't make you feel like you are filling time or serving a temporary role. Intention shows up in how he includes you in decisions, considers your needs, and thinks about how his choices affect your future. A man who loves you also protects the relationship itself. He doesn't entertain situations that could compromise trust. He sets boundaries not because he is restricted, but because he values what he has. That level of discipline is rooted in respect and intention. Love understands that what is precious must be safeguarded. Protection, respect, and intention also show in how he supports your growth. He doesn't feel threatened by your success or your voice. He encourages you to be confident, independent, and secure. Love doesn't shrink you to feel bigger. Love creates space for you to expand. When these elements are present, love feels steady and affirming. You don't feel anxious about where you stand or afraid to express yourself. You feel valued, considered, and chosen. That emotional safety is not accidental. It is built by a man who loves you enough to protect your heart, respect your worth, and be intentional about keeping you in his life. When a man loves you, he is clear about where you stand, and that clarity is one of the greatest gifts real love offers. Love does not leave you guessing. It does not keep you awake at night wondering what you mean to him or where the relationship is headed. Men may not always be expressive, but when they are emotionally invested, they understand the importance of certainty. A man who loves you does not want you confused, insecure, or doubting his intentions, because confusion creates distance and love wants closeness. Clarity shows up in his language first. He doesn't speak in half statements or vague promises. He doesn't avoid defining the relationship or act uncomfortable when commitment is mentioned. Instead, he uses words that anchor you emotionally. You know whether you are his partner, his priority, and part of his life. He doesn't leave room for interpretation because he has already made his decision, and he wants you to feel secure in it. A man in love also provides clarity through consistency. His behavior doesn't change based on mood, convenience, or outside pressure. The way he treats you today matches how he treated you yesterday, and you can trust how he will treat you tomorrow. That steadiness sends a clear message: you are not temporary. Love doesn't fluctuate wildly. It settles into reliability. When a man loves you, he understands that consistency is reassurance. Clarity also appears in how he handles other people. He doesn't keep you hidden or ambiguous. He acknowledges you openly and proudly. You are not a secret, an option, or a backup plan. Love doesn't require hiding. A man who loves you wants the world to know you are part of his life because he is not unsure of his choice. When challenges arise, clarity becomes even more important. A man in love does not disappear when things get difficult. He communicates, he explains, he reassures. Even when he doesn't have all the answers, he lets you know that he is committed to working through the uncertainty with you. Silence and avoidance create doubt, and love does not operate in silence. Love speaks even when the conversation is uncomfortable. Clarity is also reflected in boundaries. A man who loves you sets clear emotional and relational boundaries because he respects the relationship. He doesn't entertain behavior that could threaten trust or make you feel insecure. That discipline is not about restriction, it is about protection. Love understands that clarity prevents chaos. Another powerful aspect of clarity is accountability. A man in love owns his mistakes. He doesn't gaslight you, minimize your feelings, or shift blame to avoid responsibility. When he is wrong, he says so. When he hurts you, he acknowledges it. That honesty reinforces trust and eliminates doubt. Love is strong enough to admit imperfection. Perhaps most importantly, clarity gives you peace. You are not constantly analyzing messages, waiting for validation, or questioning your worth. You feel grounded. You feel chosen. You feel safe being yourself. That peace is not the result of perfect communication, but of sincere intention. When a man loves you, he understands that his role is not just to feel something, but to communicate it clearly, because love that is real does not confuse, it confirms.